This card don't read so good. Wake up. This card in the set. What the hell is this? Best in show. All right, what is up, my friends? Welcome to my complete set review for Final Fantasy. Now, full disclosure, I don't know shit about Final Fantasy. Nothing. I was a Zelda kid growing up. I have never played a Final Fantasy game in my life. So all you fine folks in the chat and the comments can help me out and chime in on all the things that I'm missing, all the deep cuts, and all the stuff that looks really cool if I just don't know what's going on. But I am a Magic player, and I do enjoy Magic stuff. So we're going to be looking at the entire set for Constructed and for Limited, going over every single card. So if you are playing this set on Arena, you're playing it in person, and playing at the pre-release, this is the set review for you. We'll also be giving out our awards, as we always do, our Best in Show for each color. We're going to be giving out our Sleeper Card Award for a card I think is being underrated right now. The Trap Card for a card I think is being overrated. And then our Bombin Common, a common card that I think will be very, very important in Limited. All those for every color, broken up into sections. Whatever sections you miss will be on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and support. A lot of work goes into the set review, and your support makes that possible. So this is the white section. We'll have one for every other color. Look for that on YouTube. I'm breaking it up on Twitch. I'm going to be doing half today, half tomorrow live on Twitch. So look for all of that. I want to remind you all that 10 New Brews is also happening on Wednesday, June 4th. That is going to be in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Lots of fun. Definitely tune in for that. And of course, on YouTube after the fact. So we'll go over the entire set. And I'll be going over the mechanics as we go through. When I hit a new mechanic I haven't seen before, we will explain it and go over there. And we are just going to rock and roll. If you're ready, say hell yeah in chat. If you're on YouTube, say whatever. Say your favorite character. Say something Final Fantasy related that I wouldn't know, honestly. And just kind of get in and do the thing, right? Let's do it.
Now this is pod racing.
I'll get some Final Fantasy clips, don't you worry, all right? Come on, I know. We'll get there, all right? I just got home from doing coverage, so we're good to go. So, let's start off our set review with, there's so many legends in this set. Aldebert Steiner.
You're saying it wrong.
I think I said it right, actually, but 2 mana for a uncommon legend. It's 2/1, it's got lifelink, and says +1/+1 for each equipment you control. So there is an equipment theme in this set. Now, there always is a Boros equipment theme in like every other set, and it's always really bad. So there are a lot of good equipment cards in this set. I think this might be the set that finally bucks that trend, but we will see. So Steiner here, more of a limited card than a constructed card, but the Raider is pretty good, right? This is a 2/1 for 2 with lifelink, which is a good limited card regardless, and then constructed needs a little more, but getting a buff for every equipment, even without equipping it, is pretty cool. And the lifelink body wears equipment really, really well. So this card's kind of awesome, honestly. This is going to be a great limited card. I think this card might have an outside shot if equipment is playable constructed. But great, great limited card and a pretty powerful card in general. This card's nice. I like this card a lot. Another legend here in, oh my god, Aerith Gainsborough. 2 mana for a 2/2. This is a legendary lifelinker. Whenever you gain life, put a counter on it, a Johnny Pridemate style. And whenever it dies, put X counters on each legendary creature you control, where X is the number of counters on Aerith Gainsborough. So this is kind of a weird card, right? So it has the Johnny's Pridemate effect, which is a very popular effect we've seen, in a lot of, kind of like tier 2 standard decks, and good and limited as well. It does have lifelink, so it can self-trigger itself. But being a 3 mana 2/2 makes that kind of difficult. And then this death trigger here requires a lot of things to happen. It could be very powerful, right? If this thing is a 4/4 or a 5/5 and it dies, there are a few legends in play, it could be a pretty huge buff. But that is a lot of ifs. So overall, this card I don't think is that impressive, honestly. And constructed, if there is some sort of life gain deck, this is not really a great payoff. It's really hard to keep it in play. So overall, I think this card is pretty cool. It'd probably be a cool card limited. You find a little life gain synergy, and if you just want a Pridemate that grows, that's cool. But all in all, I think this card is probably a little better suited for casual play and commander play. Don't think it'll see play in standard, but a good limited card, cool card overall. This is like a big sad moment, one of the games, right? I think, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I saw some comments on this card, but yeah, cool card, cool limited card, but a little too fragile for my tastes. Aerith Rescue Mission is next, and this is a common 4 mana sorcery. Choose one. Take the elevator or take 59 flights of stairs. That's a lot of stairs. So make 3/1/1s or tap up to 3 creatures, and stun one of them. This is actually a pretty awesome common and limited. So neither of these effects is phenomenal by itself, right? 4 mana for 3 1/1s it's okay. It is not, not incredible, an okay rate, definitely predicated on how good the mass pump effects are. We see this in limited all the time. You make a bunch of things that go wide, and you have a card that says, give all your things +2/+1. Pretty simple A+B magic in limited. But this card also has this blinding beam effect. Anyone?
Pointless
Blinding beam? Anyone? Where you can tap a bunch of blockers and stun a thing and get in for that big attack. The problem is that kind of card often ends up being awkward when you're behind or not quite there yet because you just can't draw too many of that card or you won't do anything. So having a modal spell with both sides of these is pretty awesome. I think this is actually going to be a really good limited common. And there are a lot of good go wide things happening in the set as well. We'll see these colorless hero tokens everywhere in the set, more on them in a bit. But I think this is a pretty good limited common. Obviously not good enough for constructed. The rate is not nearly there. But I think the modality here is pretty good, and the flexibility, and then the synergy of having these tokens. You will want payoffs in your deck to actually use the tokens, but this is a pretty cool card. Ambrosia Whiteheart is next, and we've got a bird. This is a Kokobo. Am I right? Kokobo? Anyone? Am I right?
I'm in control.
I know what's going on, kind of. 2 mana for a 2/2 flash. It's a bird without flying, which is weird, but I guess that's how chocobos work. Chocobo. Listen, folks, this is going to be, if you just bear with me here, help me out. 2/2 flash. When it ETBs, you can bounce the thing you control back to your hand and has landfall. All the chocobos have this landfall ability where landfall +1/+0. Pretty cool, honestly. So this card is in the space of the bounce cards we already have in standard, Celestial Kieran and Nurturing Pixie. I think it's a little worse than the 2 mana option we have, the Kieran. So I don't really need more of this effect, but it is a pretty powerful effect with the good bounce stuff. Great limited card, saving your own creatures. It is legendary, which is kind of weird. This is an Ambrosia Whiteheart, it is the Ambrosia Whiteheart, not an Ambrosia Whiteheart. So legendary is a little weird constructed because you can't play 4 copies maybe, but pretty cool card. Definitely a good limited card, and Chocobo, got it right the first time. Ash is next, Princess of Dalmasca. This has been Legends all the way through. All Legends all the time. Uncommon, 3 mana 3/2, which is the bread and butter limited stat line. Whenever Ash attacks, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them, put into your hand. Rest go to the bottom in a random order. So this card is definitely not good enough in constructed. If it had haste, something like that, or it was cheaper, sure. But in limited, this card's great. Get that attack in and draw a card. The blue-white theme in limited is artifacts. So you have a lot of artifacts in your deck. This card will draw you a card a lot of the time. Most of the time, it's going to get blocked and die. That's still a great exchange in limited. So in constructed, not really. In limited, good solid card if you're playing enough artifacts, and it is threatening too. So great limited card and good stuff. Oron's Inspiration is next. Speaking of payoffs for having a bunch of small creatures in play, this is a big one. 3 mana for an instant. +2/+0 for all your attacking creatures. It also can flash back for 4. Now, 2 things about this card. It is only attacking creatures, so you cannot use this spell defensively. Doesn't happen that often, but it's still a bit of flexibility you want to have in your cards. And the flashback here is a little weird, because typically when you cast a card like this, you want to end the game, have the game not continue, It's just hopefully, they're dead. So having the flashback here is a little weird. Upside is, on turn 7, you can just cast it and flash it back, +4/+0. That's going to end a lot of games limited. So this card is pretty good. It's definitely a card that needs to work with the other cards in your draft or sealed deck. You need to have the tokens to make this pay off. But if you do that, it's a pretty good card. So good limited card. Not good enough for constructed, but cool. Next up is Battle Menu. Is there a more kind of obvious, here it is, this is the thing, it's a video game crossover. 2 mana for it. Sorry, that was gross. I apologize. 2 mana for an instant. I was on an airplane today. It's been a long day, all right? 2 mana for an instant. You can choose one of 4 options, all right? 2/2 Night Token. Give a creature +0/+4. Destroy a creature power 4 or greater, or gain 4 life. That is a huge amount of flexibility for 2 mana. 2 mana for a 2/2 instant speed is, not great, but okay. A little bit of a combat trick. It can kill big creatures. It can gain life in a pinch. This card's kind of nice. This is a pretty awesome limited card. And for constructed, if you're like looking for that, kill a large creature effect with some upside, I could see this card being a, kind of a weird fringe answer. Like I want under the spell in my deck. It's also a creature. It is not great on rate, so I think it's a fringe constructed playable, but definitely a good limited card and definitely kind of a fun modal card as well. Next up is Cloud. This guy's important, right? Maybe a little important. I know this guy, all right? I know that one. Midgar Mercenary, and we have our first award of the show.
It's a trap.
Why did...
Waka, waka.
Sorry, I have my buttons mislabeled. Let's try it again. There we go. Our first award of the series. Our sleeper card for white is Cloud Midgar Mercenary of white for a 2/1 legend. When Cloud ETBs, search for your library for an equipment card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle. And then as long as Cloud is equipped, if an ability of Cloud or an equipment attached to it triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. That second ability is really weird. It's as long as Cloud is equipped, if an ability of Cloud or equipment attached to it, not something else, triggers, goes an extra time. That's a really weird effect, honestly, and that's a kind of effect where you really need to cross-reference against every legal equipment. But the part I'm really interested in here is just a 2/1 Stoneforge Mystic. Being able to go search for any equipment is great. One of the problems with equipment is that it's hard to play enough equipment to turn on equipment synergies. Because if your deck is 20 equipment and 16 creatures, they're just going to kill your creatures and you won't do anything. So having a card like this, they can go find equipment, give you a toolbox, get the right card at the right time is really, really awesome. I can't put it into play for free like Stoneforge Mystic, but the body is much better. A 2/1 for 2 is so much better than a 1/2 for 2 that I think Cloud's got some legs here. And equipment cards always are sketchy. They most of the time fail, but I think Cloud's got a good chance to do some work here in Constructed. Can even maybe do some hammer time stuff in older formats, which is really, really cool. And then limited of his cards, also excellent, just card advantage and great stuff. So, Cloud's awesome. Great limited card. I think cool card for Constructed. Cool to see the face card. They wouldn't screw up Cloud, right? They wouldn't do that. It'd be like screw up their One Ring. So, there's your first award, Cloud Midgar Mercenary, our sleeper card for white. Next up is Cloud-Bound Moogle. What the hell is a Moogle?
Somebody's playing a prank on me.
We have a new cycle of land cyclers, and these are for limited, obviously, not constructed. And they are very overcosted creatures that have the ability to also get a land. 5 mana for a 2/3 flyer when an ETBs put a counter on a creature and plane cycling. And these land cyclers are not very good. The idea of being able to play an expensive card that is also a land in the early game, if you are missing land drops, is very appealing, but they have really toned the rate down on these in the last few sets to the point where most of them are unplayable. You really just don't want one in your deck. And there's also the issue of if you want to use a land cycler to splash, they're almost always double colored. So you're not splashing it either. So I think this card is pretty much unplayable, and I think you should almost never want this card in your deck. The rate is far too low. It isn't a disaster, I guess, if it's in your deck, as most cards are playable these days, but I would not want this card in my draft deck. Sorry, Moogle. I don't know what's going on with you with those wings and stuff, but you are not for basically anyone. Next up, Coeurl. This is a 2-mana 2/2 common, Cat Beast. 2-mana tap target non-enchantment creature. So interesting that it cannot tap the Saga creatures, which are temporary, where we're tapping be very, very good. More on that in a bit. Just a bread and butter limited card. Tappers are pretty good. And the tapping cost here is reasonable. 2/2 for 2 is fine as well. Just a, good nuts and bolts limited card. I don't think it's a particularly high pick or anything, but card's nice. Good little 2-drop. Crystal Fragments is next. The return of flip cards. Means you got to bring sleeves to the pre-release. It's tough, I know. Right? I love playing on sleeves, but Crystal Fragments is a 1-mana equipment, and of course, there is a strong equipment theme, so you really need to look at the cards in the context of the set. This is a short sword, +1/+1 for equipped creature, equipped for 1, but you can spend 7 mana to exile it and flip it transformed at sorcery speed. The backside is Summon Alexander. So we come to these Saga creatures. These play just like sagas, where you go through the chapters. They enter on chapter 1. Every turn they go up 1 chapter. On the 3rd chapter, they do the effect and get sacrificed. But they are creatures while they are in play, so they're kind of like temporary fading creatures. You have them in play. It's important to note how many times they can attack, right? So if this comes into play on chapter 1, it can't attack. Chapter 2, it can attack. Chapter 3, it goes away. So kind of paying attention to how often they can attack is important, but it's also important that they are creatures in play. They can block, they affect the board for a few turns, and because they are going to go away, your opponent doesn't necessarily want to trade it or kill it, but you can stop the effects too. So a lot of flexibility here. I think it's going to play really, really well. But this one in particular is Summon Alexander. And this is a chapter 1 and 2, prevent all damage that be dealt to creatures you control this turn. Chapter 3, tap all creatures your opponents control, and then it dies and goes away. It's a 4/3 flyer. So you'll get one shot in, a little bit of an ability, and that's kind of like a kicker cost on this 1 mana equipment that's going to help your stuff. So that's pretty cool, honestly. So that is pretty cool little card. I think in limited you'll want this card if you're playing equipment stuff. It's not good enough for constructed on pure rate, but probably a fine draft card for the equipment deck. It's cheap, and you're going to want equipment that are cheap to do the thing. Next up is the Crystal's Chosen. 7 mana. Woo! That's a lot. So this better be good. Sorcery, make 4 colorless 1/1 hero tokens. Then put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That is good, folks. All right, that is a very, very powerful effect. We're looking at 7 mana for, at a minimum, 4 2/2s, which is a huge board. And if you have anything else in play, that also gets augmented. So this is a very, very powerful effect. It is expensive. Typically, these go wide decks. You want to be aggressive. We could see a more controlling go wide deck here. Great limited finisher. Really, really cool stuff. Definitely not for constructed. 7 mana is far too much for this kind of effect, but really cool limited card. Wouldn't want a ton of these in my deck because it is very expensive, but it is a great finisher for your draft deck. Delivery Moogle is next. 4 mana for a 3/2 uncommon flying creature. Whenever it enters, search your library and or graveyard for an artifact card, mana value 2 or less, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then if you search, shuffle. So a little card advantage here on an okay size flyer. And if you're going to go find a card with this, it's pretty good limited. But you got to have enough cards you can find. Artifact card, value 2 or less. It's kind of a small subset of cards. This can find your equipments for your equipment deck. This can find your artifacts for your artifact deck. Really important to look for those cross deck synergies. If it's good in multiple decks, makes for a good limited card. Constructed, not good enough, too expensive, but pretty cool draft card. Dion, Bahamut's Dominance. We have a rare flip card here. Another legendary creature. 4 mana for a 3/3. Has Dragonfire Dive. Note that all of these italic text in the box are just flavor text. Just it's not a mechanic, has no relevance to the ability, just a fun little flavor thing. I'm sure it's a move in the game. I have no idea. During your turn, this and other knights you control have flying, which is pretty powerful. Whenever it enters, make a 2/2 knight. So we have a 3/3 and a 2/2 for 5. Already great and limited. And then you can spend 6 mana, tap it, to exile it, and return it at sorcery speed. So we see a flip, and we get Bahamut, Warden of Light. So 5/5 flying saga, has 3 chapters, so it can attack once. Put a counter on each creature you control, and they all gain flying. Do that once. Do that again. And then the Giga Flare ability, so when it goes on its way out and it goes away, is destroy target permanent, and then exile it. Now, these flip legends don't go away. They don't die. They actually exile and come back face up, which is very, very powerful. Now you have a 3/3. Now you have a 2/2, and you can do it again. These are going to be phenomenal in limited. Excellent, excellent, excellent limited cards. Really, really powerful. On base rate here, if it was just a 3/3 limited 2/2, it'd still be pretty good. But this one is quite impressive. So, good late game ability, good ability on the front value. For constructed, it's not really good enough. But for limited, this is an absolute slam dunk first pick. Phenomenal card. Really, really cool stuff. Next up is Dragoon's Lance. 2 mana for a equipment with the new job select ability. Get a job, folks. Very similar to 4 Mirrodin and Germ tokens before it. These are equipments that come with a creature already attacked, which is a really, really important thing. Again, the big problem with equipment is you just can't put that many equipment into your deck without putting creatures in also. end up with a spot where you have like 3 equipment in play and no creatures. That feels really, really bad. So these ones that come with a creature already attached is great. You need to look at them at their base rate. So this is a 1/1 hero token, and the equipped creature gets +1/+0 is a knight, and during your turn has flying. So this is a 2/1 flyer on your turn for 2 that leaves behind this equipment that can be equipped for 4 later, and also counts for synergy as well. It's also an artifact. This is a nice card. This is a really nice hold the room together for your draft deck kind of card. Probably not good enough if constructed, but this is an artifact for your blue-white artifact deck. It's an equipment for your Boros equipment deck, and it's also a good thing to have late in the game where you have a lot of mana, you're flooded, board gets stalled up, start jumping your creatures. So, great limited card, really good stuff. Dwarven Castle card. 2 for a 2/1 Dwarf Soldier. When it dies, make a 1/1. Classic bread and butter limited card. Good solid creature. Not always going to make the deck, but there is some sacrifice things happening in black-white. Most of the limited themes in this set are what you'd expect. It's kind of a simple set in that regard, which makes sense. This is obviously going to be a huge set for Magic, getting new players in the game. So, a little bit on the simpler side. So, just a really good little draft common. Fate of the Suncyst. Suncrest. 5 mana for an instant. Destroy target non-land permanent. It costs 2 less to cast if it targets a tapped creature. And this one is we've been spoiled lately, where these kind of cards usually cost 2 mana to hit a tapped creature, not 3. 3 is a lot more than 2, making this mostly filler. I think this card is just okay, not particularly great. If you need a kill spell in your deck, it'll serve the purpose, but it is just okay. So, wouldn't be thrilled to have this card in my deck. It can hit any permanent for 5 mana. That is not very good. That is a very, very clunky card. So, if you have wanted this card in your draft deck, it's not the end of the world, but it is pretty meh. From Father to Son, 2 mana for a rare sorcery. Search the library for a vehicle card, reveal it, and put it in your hand. If the spell is cast from a graveyard, put that card on the battlefield instead, and then shuffle. Flashback for 7 mana. So, this is a clunky card. 2 mana to tutor for a vehicle is not particularly exciting. If you are doing some sort of combo with vehicles, be it Greasefang in Pioneer, or whatever else it might be, I could see those decks wanting this card, but this card is really, really clunky. Very, very limited. If you got like a vehicle and or an equipment, sure. But overall, I think this card's kind of meh. Weird combo enabler or not much else. If you could like Snapcaster Mage this or cast in the graveyard some other way, sure, that's kind of cool, I guess. But the vehicles aren't that good either. So this is a card to watch for sure. I agree with that. But, not very exciting overall. And limited's pretty stinky. Garatia. We have an uncommon 5 mana legend, 3/5 reach cat archer. Whenever one or more creatures or artifacts you control die, draw a card. Triggers once a turn. This is a bonkers limited card. Really, really good.
Do a barrel roll.
Excellent card. The body is great. The stats are great. 3/5 reach for 5 isn't really playable by itself, but if this thing ever draws 1 card, you are way above rate, and it's likely to live because it's just so big. And then you can just send your creatures in attacks. You can stack and draw things. Awesome card. Great limited card. Too clunky for constructed, but phenomenal limited card. Gollycat is next. 2 mana for a 1/3 common flying vigilance. So long as you control 2 or more artifacts, this creature gets +2/+0. Now, one of the issues with these artifact synergy cards is that if they're not an artifact themselves, you can only play so many of them, right? If my deck is an Abyss card and 5 artifacts, I am not happy. So that being said, if you have a ton of artifacts in your deck, 3/3 flying vigilance for 3 is pretty good stat line. So I think this card is a synergy piece, a card that you'll get late in your drafts if you are in the deck that you want to be in. Not a card you should take early, but a card you can pick up late as a benefit for being in the deck that you are. Otherwise, not very exciting. Machinist Arsenal. We got a 5 mana rare equipment. Also has job select, very important. So it comes with that hero token. It gets +2/+2 for each artifact you control, and as an artificer, in addition to its other types, and has equipped for 4. So face value of this by itself is a 5 mana 3/3, but having artifacts in play is not too difficult to do. This is probably going to be a really, really big creature. Say it's going to be a 10/10 or a 9/9 or whatever. That's pretty cool. The equip cost is very, very high. and it doesn't offer any evasion of any kind. So that being said, if you can give this evasion and put this onto a creature that has, flying or trample or whatever else, that's nice. However, the equip cost of 4 is it's a lot, It's definitely not a cheap one. So constructed wise, this might be a little too clunky on both sides. It could be like a one of in your cloud deck to go search for in the late game. But phenomenal limited card. Going to be just a huge creature on the front side, and you'll have the ability to equip it a few times, which is cool. So great limited card. Constructed, probably not there. Big powerful stuff. Magitech Armor. 4 mana for a 4/4 vehicle. When it ETBs, make a 1/1 hero, and it crews for 1. So we've seen cards like this in Aether Drift. The common 5/4 for 5 with the exact same effect, basically, was quite a good common. So shaving a mana off this is pretty awesome. The hero can crew this card immediately, which is great. So it's a self-crewing card, and then it can be crewed by other things. Pretty good, honestly. Pretty good card. Noting that there's not the vehicle synergies we saw in Aether Drift, so you lose out some value there. But it is an artifact for your artifact stuff, which is cool. And just a fine limited card. Nothing more. Good solid card. Magitech Infantry, however, this card's awesome. Really, really cool card. Where's my, oh god, what was that card? Whisper Squad Enthusiasts. 1 mana for a 1/1. It gets +1/+0 as long as you control another artifact. And then you can spend 3 mana to search your library for a card named Magitech Infantry and put it on the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. So really cool card in that, like, as long as you're playing enough artifacts, the Radier is pretty good, right? This is a 2/1 for 1, which is a fine stat line. Also an artifact itself, so it turns itself on, which is important. And then if you got any spare mana, you can just keep pulling him out, keep pulling him out, keep pulling him out. That's great, honestly. So in limited, if you can get a few of these, that's great. This card could definitely see play constructed if it's an artifact aggro like in white, as a way to kind of, I'm scared of a counter spell. I'm scared of getting hit by a sweeper. Just going to go get another one out of my deck. Keep getting them out of my deck. Really, really cool stuff. So, I like this card a lot. It is definitely not an overtly powerful card. This is kind of a nuts and bolts synergy card. Blue collar common, if you will. But a really cool one at that. So, really cool limited card. Definitely a chance to constructed. I like this card a lot. When I say turn itself on, I mean another copy will turn it on. So, you can activate it and go find another copy, and they turn each other on. That's what I meant. Next up, we have Minwu White Mage.
It's a trap.
This is our actual trap card. And 5 mana for a 3/3 Vigilance lifelink. Whenever you gain life, put a counter on each cleric you control. Now, this card is going to be a good limited card, obviously. It is a card that is pretty powerful. I mean, maybe not that good in limited, honestly. It's like, yeah, if you have other ways to gain life, sure. The body's just so small. It's just like, eh. And I know I've seen some folks excited about this card. This card is a joke compared to, what was it called? What was the angel called? No, I forget. Jim, what are you doing? Angel.
That's it. I'm going to
I played it before. Archangel of Thune. Thank you, chat. Archangel of Thune, which was a 3/4 with the exact same type line, but it had flying to the vigilance, and it gave your creatures a buff without any cleric rider text. So this card is a major step down from that card, and that card was also only a fringe playable card. So this is an okay limited card, maybe a cool commander card, I guess. But for the most part, this card is pretty sketchy. Being limited to clerics, very small body. I think this card's just a trap, folks. I think this card won't see much play at all. Give me Archangel of Thune. This one's kind of meh.
Get off my plane.
Moving on to Moogle's Valor. 5 mana for an instant. For each creature you control, make a 1/2 white Moogle token with lifelink. Then creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. So kind of a weird card. It's like a half, creature like token maker, half heroic intervention effect, which at 5 mana is heinously bad. If you have like 4 guys in play, this thing makes 4 1/2 lifelinks. That's pretty good. With creature pumps effects and stuff like that. So this card's kind of cool. Definitely a good limited card. If you're going wide with your white deck and you can make 4 tokens off this thing and maybe get a good block in as well, that's great. So this is a great limited card. Definitely too expensive for constructed, but really, really cool limited card. Gonna be a big blowout a lot of the time. Very high pick. Paladin's Arms is next. The mana for a common job select equipment. If a creature gets +2. A creature gets +2/+1, has ward 1, and as a knight, has equip for 4, which is a lot. So this is like your generic, 3/2 for 3 limited card. A bit of upside here as it is an artifact, which stays behind for your artifact synergies. It's an equipment for your equipment synergies. And then, late in the game, got some spare mana, buff your creature up. Does have Ward 1, which is kind of nice, for making it block. But this is just a nuts and bolts card. Don't take it late, don't take it early. This is the kind of card you get late. And if you are the artifact deck or the equipment deck, it's fine, perfectly serviceable. Not a card you're always going to play, though. Phoenix Down. Like the feather, not the, 1 mana for an artifact. Spend 2, tap, and exile this artifact. Choose 1. Return target creature card with mana value 4 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Tapped. Exile target skeleton, spirit, or zombie. So the tap part's really tough, right? As we know from Helping Hand, bringing things back tapped is tough because you can't defend yourself, and you do some time. It takes some time to set this up. That's kind of sketchy for 3 mana. The efficiency you get from Helping Hand makes it worth it, but this one's a little rough. That being said, there are some cool synergies. It gets back Shieldred, all the powerful 4-drops. Pretty cool with Bright Glass Gear Hulk. That's not bad. And then you've got the exile target skeleton, spirit, or zombie effect, which is close to flavor text. I haven't done a gatherer search on what skeletons, spirits, and zombies are playable right now, but there aren't that many of a set overall. So for the most part, this is a bad Helping Hand, which is not particularly good. Restoration Magic. Another simple new mechanic here, where we have a tiered spell. Very similar to Spree, but you can only choose 1. So the base cost here is 1 white, and you must add on a cost to get one of these 3 effects. So Cure costs 0 additional mana, and just gives a permanent hexproof and indestructible, so a good protection spell. You can Cura for 2 mana, where you do the exact same thing but gain 3 life. Or you can Curaga for 5 mana and protect all your permanents and gain 6 life. So I think for the most part, this is going to be used as a 1 mana trick with a little bit of upside. Very rarely would ever be cast for 5, and even for 2, honestly. If you have a spare mana, sure, but this is a 1 mana trick. That is okay. If your deck really wants this kind of effect, sure. Definitely worse than a card like Snakeskin Veil, which is giving you a +1/+1 counter also, so it can win combats like that, or give you a buff. So the blowout is you tried to kill my thing, but now it's actually bigger. This is just, it's still alive. So this is okay. It does save permanents, so it can save your enchantments, your lands, or whatever else. But for the most part, just a somewhat low power level protection spell. And limited, just okay. Side quest, catch a fish. Everyone loves fishing, right? And I'm sure Zelda had fishing first, right? There's going to be a lot of Zelda Final Fantasy, talk here because I was a Zelda kid, but there's 1 side quest for each color. Each one's an enchantment, has a condition. If you meet it, you get to do the thing. So then for an enchantment, beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's an artifact or creature, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you put a card in your hand this way, make a food token and transform this enchantment. So that's not bad. 3 mana, draw a card, get a food, and then it flips over into Cooking Campsite, which is a land, which can 3 mana sack an artifact to put a counter on each creature you control, and you can sack the food. So really fun flavor here, right? This is a cool flavor story. But the real cool thing here is how this is basically white ramp, right? You play this thing, and you hit an artifact card, and all of a sudden, boom, another land in play. So this is a kind of a rampant growth cantrip in a color that never gets that effect, which is pretty cool, actually, and a pretty unique effect. So this card probably isn't good enough for Constructed, but I would not be surprised, honestly, if this card had maybe a spot here or there. Pretty good limited card, though, although it is a little slow. But yeah, cool stuff. Really cool card, fun little story, and cool art as well. Slash of Light. We got 2 mana for an instant common. Damage equal to the number of creatures you control, plus the equipment you control to target creatures. So notably, this will double count your job select cards. Just a good limited removal spell. Obviously, you want to be the equipment deck for this. If you're like a, blue-white control deck with 10 creatures and no equipments, this card's very, very bad. But we've seen cards like this a bunch of times already. You'll know when this card is good. A fine draft card, otherwise not very exciting. Is what it is. Snow Villiers.
You're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa.
And note that this is the Snow Villiers, not a Snow Villiers. Sorry, it is a, the, not a. 3 mana for a legendary star 3 vigilance, has power equal to the number of creatures you control. And it's pretty good, honestly. Constructed, probably not good enough, but in limited, go wide deck wants this card. Hopefully be a 3/3 or a 4/3 or whatever. Not quite Adeline. I always a little bit better, but, you know, for a limited, great card. Constructed, not really, but it's a human. You know, it's a rebel. It's a legendary. A little bit of help there. Stiltskin, Moogle Merchant. 1 mana for a rare legendary Moogle with lifelink. It's a 1/2. 2 mana to get an opponent to gain control of another target permanent you control. And if they do, you draw a card. Now, one thing I want to draw attention to is that there are a ton of 1 mana legends in this set, which is really big for like legendary synergy things, especially Mox Amber. So Mox Amber in Pioneer or Modern, whatever else it might be legal, is really good with 1 mana legends. So thing to make note of as this card by itself. A 1/2 lifelink for 1 is not particularly great, as is giving your opponent permanents. You know, you give them a map and you can draw a card. That's kind of cool, you know. There are also permanents where like you might play a permanent that has done a thing. Say you play I don't know, whatever, enchantment that ETBs to do a thing, and then it kind of just sits there, doesn't do anything. You can give them that, like a Hopeless Nightmare. You can give them that and draw a card. Kind of cool as well. That being said, this card is kind of finicky, kind of cute with things like Demonic Pact or Greed's Gambit. So a lot of fun, you know, possible build around things there. But I think for the most part, this is a, you know, kind of okay card. It's cool with Sagas. You know, it's cheap enough where like it's kind of cool and the buy is kind of cool as well. So this is a card that could see play. I think it's a good limited card. And then, you know, maybe a fringe constructed card. You know, probably more of a commander card, honestly, but still a cool card. Fun design. Cool to see this effect so cheap. So you feel like, you know, you're doing a lot of work to do this thing, and it'll be worth it, which is kind of cool. So, cool stuff. Next up is our first actual summon. So now we've seen the Saga creatures on the backside of some of these legends, but there are also Saga creatures that are just creatures straight up. And the idea here is, I've been told, in the Final Fantasy game, there are spells you can cast which bring a creature into play temporarily. So really cool flavor here. And this is Summon Choco Mog. This is a 3 mana common 3/3 with 4 chapters. So again, really, really important when trying to evaluate these creature sagas is asking yourself, how many times can they attack? This card can attack twice, right? It's those middle chapters that are important. But it is buff your squad for 4 turns. And if you are a go wide white draft deck with a bunch of tokens in play, that's pretty awesome. So my gut tells me this card is pretty good. Only 2 attacks is a little rough, but you will get a bunch of buff over a long period of time. Your opponent's going to want to trade with it, which is kind of cool too. So this card's cool. I like this card a lot. Very, very hard to evaluate how this card is going to play in an actual game of Magic because the effect is so unique. But my gut tells me that this is going to be a pretty good common. Summon Knights of the Round. From common to mythic rare. This is a big one, folks. 8 mana for a 3/3 indestructible. Chapter 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 are make 3 2/2 knight tokens. So we have 12 total knights over a bunch of turns. The ultimate stabilizer, right? The turn you cast this, it is very expensive. The turn you cast this, you get 4 bodies to defend yourself with. And then as the turns go on, things get wildly out of hand. Then you get to chapters 5, which is ultimate end. So the summon itself goes away, but all other creatures you control get +2/+2 end of turn and get an indestructible counter. So your squad is now beefy and unstoppable. So this is a card you can reanimate. It is a creature, aside from being an enchantment, that is very powerful. It's castable, I would imagine, in some places. Maybe cards like Collector's Cage. If you can get this thing in play, this is a constructed playable card. That's obviously a big if, though. So, powerful card. The kind of card in Limited is pretty hard to cast. So there is a common we'll get to that can help you cast this. But very, very, very powerful card, but very, very expensive. Very exciting, fun card too, right? The kind of card a new player would see and go, whoa, this is awesome. So, really cool stuff. Yeah, this card's freaking awesome. Another summon here in Primal Garuda. This is an uncommon, 4 mana for a 3/3 flyer. Chapter 1, deal 4 damage to a tap creature. Chapter 2 and 3, give a small buff and flying to a creature. This card can only attack once. This card is mostly a spell, right? So you spend 4 mana, you kill their creature, and then get a little bit of upside overall. It only attacks once, which is kind of rough, but you can block with it, you can trade with it. Your opponent will want to attack into it, and then it can also buff things too. So this card's pretty cool. Good limited card. Get that face-up value from the first cast. A little other value here or there. Nice card. Next up is Ultima. Our best in show. I know Sunfall is still legal for a little longer, but not much longer, honestly. We have our sweeper from the set. 5 mana for a sorcery. Destroy all artifacts and creatures. End the frickin' turn. So what the heck does that mean, end the turn? It means that you're done. It is over. Empty the stack. Everything goes away. The turn ends. Any triggers that would happen due to death don't happen. Any death triggers, when this thing dies, draw 5 cards. Sorry, nope, we're gone. We're done here. The turn is over. Very, very powerful effect. In some ways, better than exile creatures like Sunfall is, because if there are leaves play triggers, anything like that at all, boom, it's over. And then in older formats with the Fairy Time Raveler, casting this on your opponent's turn is really cool stuff. So this is a very powerful sweeper. Once Sunfall is gone and if the format slows down a little bit, this is going to be a big one. It also hits artifacts too. So Quarry Steelcutter, any other random artifact that might be in play. This card is very good against cards that are normally good against sweepers. So this one's an absolute banger. And this is like the ultimate spell in Final Fantasy, and with great due cause. So great card for constructed. For limited, it's a Wrath, pretty good there also. But yeah, absolute banger for constructed. Best in show for white is Ultima. Venant, Heart of, I'm not even going to try it. The mana for a legendary 3/3 Elder Wizard. Cast the legend, draw a card, but only once a turn. Then has that big, expensive, flip it over ability. 7 mana, exile this, and you get Hydaelyn, the Mother Crystal. 4/4 flying, indestructible. This is just an actual creature, not a saga. Blessing of Light, beating a combat in your turn, put a counter on a creature you control, and it is indestructible. And if it's legend, you draw a card. So for the most part, again, you want to evaluate these legendaries on their front side. And the front side here is pretty good. Being able to, I'm sorry, I missed a step there. You also exile target non-land permanent. That is really good. I apologize. I missed the text there. So front side here, 3/3 for 3, and play a legend, draw a card. That's a really good stat line. Problem is that it's a little clunky, and you just play it and they kill it, but there are some cheap legends in the set too. So I think this card's pretty good, honestly. I think if there is a legendary deck, this card could definitely do some work in it. Very, very nice. And the fact that this is a 7 mana removal spell is pretty cool as well. Exiling a permanent, flip this thing over, do some big god stuff. Card's pretty good. Definitely the kind of card that will need support to be playable and constructed, but definitely has a possible chance. And then limited his cards are freaking banger. Absolutely insane, as most of these flip cards are. So, cool card. Definitely one you'll see in 10 New Brews, almost assuredly. Next up is Weapons Vendor, which is kind of a weird one. This is a 4 mana 2/2 at common, which is pretty small. Pretty small. EDB, draw a card, which is huge. And being in combat on your turn, you may pay 1 to equip an equipment you control to a creature. So this card is pretty cool. There are a lot of expensive equipment effects, so being able to reduce and cost those is nice. That being said, it makes this card feel a little more like a 5-drop than a 4-drop, because you want to use it instantly. And now 5 mana for a 2/2 draw card is really kind of small. So this is the kind of card where if the format's a little slower, it'll be quite good. If the format's a little faster, it would not be very good. But the ceiling here is pretty high if this card has time to shine. And again, the equips thing is very real as well. So I think this card is a cool draft card. I think it's a little clunky. It's definitely a card you want for the equipment deck. Don't just play this card to draw a card. And 2/2 draw a card for 4 is pretty bad. But if you're doing the equipment thing, if you want a cool grindy 4-drop, this card can do that, but hard to evaluate card. Next up is White Orsight. Folks, this is cool. All right. White gets a mana rock that's also a removal spell.
We have technology.
Almost surprised I haven't seen this before. Also a little surprised this card's mono white, but 4 mana for an O-Ring, EDB, exile non-land permanents, that's, a little clunky. The fact this thing taps for white, though, is really, really cool. And I think that puts it in, borderline constructed playable. Probably not, but that is a pretty powerful effect to go to 6 mana on turn 5. In limited, however, what this does is this makes it so you can play cards that are a little more expensive in limited. And we've seen, some 7 and 8 drops in white so far that are very powerful but kind of hard to get to. This card really helps you get there. So this is my Bombin Common for white. I think this card is awesome. It is a little weird this card isn't like a green or white card, green-white, multicolored card. But this card's cool. Like this card a lot. And it is obviously a little vulnerable to disengage effects. I haven't done the math on how many of those there are in the set, but I like this card a lot. I think this card's really, really cool. I think that mana is going to come up a lot more than you think it would for equip abilities and everything else. So, like this card a lot. Bombin Common for white is White Oresight. Then we come to White Mage's Staff. 2 mana for a job select equipment. Creature gets +1/+1. Has whenever your creature attacks, you gain 1 life. It's also a cleric. So this is basically a 2/2 for 2 that gains life when it attacks, which is close to lifelink, which is totally fine. And then it gives that effect to other things later. 3 mana for a equip is not great, but fine. It's an artifact. It's an equipment. All of these equipment artifacts need to be viewed from the lens of I'm my Azorius and want artifacts, and my Boros and want equipment. So, in that respect, a pretty damn good common. The Wind Crystal. There is one of these for each color, and they are all 4 mana artifacts. And they offer the medallion effect that makes all spells of the same color 1 less to cast. That is a really, really powerful effect. That being said, 4 mana for that effect is very expensive. But they do one more thing. They say some effect, and then there's a mana cost for some really powerful effect. This one is if you gain life, gain twice that much life, which is... And then 6 mana, tap it. Creatures you control gain flying and lifelink until end of turn. This one's kind of eh. I don't think the life gain effect or the flying effect are particularly good. And then 4 mana for a Pearl Medallion, not very good either. So I think this is more of a go big commander card. I would not play this card in limited. I don't think I'd play it in constructed either. Yeah, cool stuff. But you are not alone. I am here with you. 1 mana for an instant, +2/+2. We see that all the time in limited, right? But this one is excellent. This is a really, really good one. If you control 3 or more creatures, +4/+4.
No, that's a lot of damage.
That's a big buff. And controlling 3 creatures in limited is not a difficult thing in these white decks. I think this card's actually kind of gas. Usually these 1 mana tricks are like, they're fine. You'll play it once in a while. But I think this one's actually quite excellent. And that +4/+4 buff is really, really nice. So if you are an aggro white deck in limited, if you're going wide, this seems like a trick I would actively want to play 1 or 2 of. I still wouldn't take it that high because it's a synergy card, but pretty cool. Zach, good old Zach Fair. 1 mana for an 0/1 with a counter on it. Pay 1 to sacrifice this card. And target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. Put Zach Fair's counters on that creature and attach an equipment that was attached to Zach Fair to that creature. I'm going to make a guess here. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the character that gives you the big dumb sword when you're a Cloud in Final Fantasy VII. Am I right? Did I guess right? Was that the story behind this card? I'm a genius. I did it. I'm so smart. Excellent. Kind of. Well, whatever. He's Cloud's best friend. Yeah, whatever. Close enough. So this is a pretty cool little card. Honestly, once again, we have a 1 mana legendary, which is relevant for synergy. It's a human and a soldier, also relevant for synergy. And then it is a 1/2. Has that kind of like protection effect. The equipment effect is like, you gotta have an equipment, put it on this, want to sacrifice it. That's a lot of steps. But for the most part, this is just like a selfless savior that can move counters around. If you are doing counter things, maybe you're adding counters, stuff like that too. So pretty cool little card. Good draft card. Definitely the kind of nuts and bolts card that could see play in constructed if there's a deck for it. But there's got to be a deck for it. But that's it for white. To recap, our best in show for white is Ultima. Our sleeper card is Cloud, Midgar Mercenary. Our trap card is Minwu, White Mage. And our Bombin Common is White Oresight. So we got plenty more to do. YouTube folks, take a second, pause the video, and hit the like. Don't pause it. I'm talking. Just hit the like button. Comment, subscribe, do all the things, support the content, and look for the other sections of the set review on YouTube as well. Hope to see you there.